Hi guys, my name is Mahesh. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I want to walk you through how do you find, write and convert cold emails so they actually land and get you to your business goals. So if you are into cold emails or into outbound, you know that traditionally it's been spray and pray. And now you see more and more people using AI, but it's very limited personalization. Today in this video, I want to talk about a key concept that is often overlooked when you do outbound, which is the concept of signal finding. Because you really want your prospects to be ready to engage with you when it comes to outbound, and you don't want them to be so far away from where you are that it doesn't make sense, right? So you want to really target them so it feels like the perfect timing that your email has landed in their inbox. So let me walk you through step by step how I do this for my own portfolio of companies. And in the second part of this video, you're going to watch me build out the workflow that I use to get these results that you're going to see step by step so you can literally follow along. So the first part, I'm going to walk you through some theory and show you some simple prompting so you get a feeling of how to collect these signals. And the second part of this video, I'm going to build this out so you can follow along with me. Okay, let's get started. All right, so in the first part of this video, I'm going to walk you through some of the principles of signal collection and how do you actually qualify your leads so they are ready for you. So traditionally, before the AI-powered world, the old way of doing outbound was you buy leads based on industry. You have a boilerplate template, which has been tested before, or you take a course, or you use some kind of cold email template, and you simply add first name and something about their company. And that was great. That was high-level personalization back then, right? Now, in the world of AI, what you can actually do is the holy grail of outreach. You can literally do personalization or hyper-personalization at scale. So you're not sacrificing quality as you scale. You're actually making it more personalized as you scale. And this is literally possible with piecing together certain AI tools. And as I said, I'm going to show how you piece together in the second part, but it's as important you understand the psychology and the mindset of how do you do signal triangulation and why this is important. So if you can make emails really personalized and feels like you've invested time, money and effort to put a human resource that has researched this person and is genuinely trying to build a relationship, of course your emails are going to do better, right? So traditionally, outbound emails start getting replies around mail 6, mail 7 and onwards. But if you can do hyper-personalization, what I'm starting to see is that you start getting replies around mail 3. So you not only build better brand, you build more trust, but you also start getting better metrics, which is literally win-win-win. Okay, so what do I mean by these signal collections? So signal collections can come in different forms. The most basic level is firmographic. So it's the company that is in an industry, a certain size, a certain location. I'm sure you do all this from your lead scraping. Whether you're buying leads from a broker or whether you're using a tool like Apollo, it doesn't matter, right? You can literally do that. But the other 8 signals is what is interesting. What I love looking at is recruitment signals, because if you're, for instance, you're doing an agency, a marketing agency, and somebody's recruiting for marketing staff, it means that they've already made up their mind to invest in your category. Now you need to convince them either not to recruit the person, which can be hard but is possible, or you need to convince that once they recruit the person, your service is the perfect way to add value so they get ROI on the investment they're making. Because you have to bear in mind that no business growth decision is free. There's some kind of a process that has happened behind the scenes to decide to come to that point. So they are consciously or unconsciously wanting to invest, and hence they want better results, right? And that's what you're offering. You're offering an outcome which can be enabled faster or easier or more with higher probability if you come into the picture. So I love hiring and recruitment signals because they signal an appetite for investment, an appetite for the outcome that you can produce, right? Funding is yet another important milestone, especially if you're working with SaaS companies or tech companies, because a funding round literally means that a founder's countdown has started to show results, especially if you're in the early stage, pre-series B stage, because you really have to show results in 12 to 18 months to keep growing your company. So if somebody's raised capital the last 3 months, they are in a hurry to deploy the capital to show growth. So if you're doing growth services, if you're doing SaaS tools that help enable growth, save time, things like that, it's great when you have a funding milestone because it literally supercharges decisions. And the same is true for the opposite side. So if a company has raised capital 12, 18 months ago, and they've not raised any of the capital since then, they are going to probably raise capital or they are struggling, right? So which means that you can position yourself based on where that is. And this is again an important signal. And I want to interject here and talk about 3 types of prospects. So you have a problem-aware prospect, a solution-aware prospect, and a not-aware prospect. If you have a product or service that's in a category that's well known, say for instance you're doing marketing agency, it's a category that's pretty well known, then you don't need to educate so much. You just need to position yourself to the right people with an offer that is much better than what they have been used to or what their current supplier gives them, or that stands out, right? Whether that's in terms of pricing or deliverables and so on. I'm going to leave how to create a good offer here, but that's literally what you're doing. But can you imagine if you walk into a room of people and you ask this group of people, hey, how many of you are interested in getting to better health or losing weight? 80% of people in the room, or 70%, are probably going to say, I'm interested, because they're problem aware. They know that they can do better. But if you ask the same group of people, how many of you want to do Pilates to reduce weight or to get to your health goals? Maybe 20% of the same number of hands that went up are going to go up this time. And that's because people are not sure if Pilates is going to work for them, right? So you have a group of people that are problem aware, and you have a group of people that are solution aware. In general, there's a larger group of people, like 80-20, that is problem aware than solution aware. And if you're working in a new category, people are not even problem aware. So you need to educate them even further, so they're not even aware, right? So these are the three groups of prospects. You have the problem aware group, the solution aware group, and the not aware group. And you really want to focus on people that are solution aware, because those are literally on the move. And you just have to say, hey, I'm better than everybody else you're looking at, and that's much better. So if you have to apply this on a dating world, you want to work with somebody that's single, and that's the solution aware people. And problem aware people are people that are getting out, they're starting to realize that I need to do something about it, but there's some inertia, there's some obstacle, there's some effort, there's some sacrifice, there's some time, money commitment they're not ready to do, and that's where you need to position yourself to see why you're the better choice, right? So if you understand if they're problem aware or solution aware or not aware, it makes it easier to tailor your messages, because if they're not aware, you should not be asking for sell. You should not be asking for a call. You should be nurturing them. If they're problem aware, you can move them further closer to solution aware. And if you're solution aware, you can move much more faster. You can be much more aggressive because they're ready for you, right? So this is literally why the signal collection part is very important. So if you look at things like job changes, product launches, tech stack changes, these are also very important triggers, because imagine you just got a new job, especially if you're in the management position and you want to climb up the ladder of a fast-growing company, let's say, you really want to get it out of the park. You really want to smash it out of the park the first 100, 200 days, right? And anybody that helps you look like a hero, you're going to celebrate. So it's the same with like product launches. The company spent a lot of time and money. There's so much sunk cost bias that you want to make it work. And if something's stopping you from not getting to your goals, you're ready to solve that problem, even if it means changing plans, because this is where you are, right? So these milestones unlock new levels of sales readiness that is very important that you start looking at. And this is why if you build a model where you have a smart way to collect signals, and bear in mind, a lot of people in outbound are not going to reply, right? 70% of people will never reply, 80% will never reply. For many campaigns, it's like 98% will never reply, right? So these 98% of people, if you have a model where you constantly get data about them and you're nurturing them all the time based on what's going on in their world, and bear in mind, cold outbound compounds over time. So if you start today, a year from now, you'll be activating people that you started today with. And if you can keep them going with a nurturing sequence, which is based on their reality, you're going to be top of mind all the time. And this is literally a volume game. So if you can combine volume, personalization, and signal collection, you win. You literally win. This is literally the holy grail of marketing, in B2B marketing, that people have been waiting for, and it's here. So in the second part of the video, I'm going to walk you through how to get started on a very simple, basic level. You can obviously build so many levels of signal collection here, but start with like a couple of signal collections, and then you can build from there. Now, what I want to do in the first part of the video is to show you how you can just start with simple prompting, get data. So one of the data that I love to get is competitor data. So if you look at this prompt on Perplexity, which I love using for things like this, is I say UCB Insights or PitchBook or Crunchbase, and tell me who are the competitors for these three companies that I'm targeting, right? Obviously, you can do this at scale, but just to give you an idea of what the output is, it's always better to start small, see how you're tinkering with the prompts, so you can start making the output better, right? And here you can see that you get a bunch of competitors. Now, what does this mean? You can start ranking these competitors in respect to your lead and say, hey, it seems like if I'm writing to Tink and let's say I'm a growth agency, I can say, hey, Plaid seems to be really doing well on these three things. How are you looking at this? We work with companies like you to solve this problem. Are you interested, right? And this is assuming Tink raised capital recently. Tink and Plaid are going head on head in a market that they're just getting started with. They're both launching in Germany, or they're both launching in the Middle East, let's say. And they're literally on the move, and you come in at the right time, right? So this is a great example of using competitor data and funding data or market entry data to map out how to position yourself. Here's another example. Give me a list of 10 Swedish SaaS companies that raised capital the last 6 months. So these are companies that have raised capital the last 6 months. You get date here. This is March 2024. Well, it's more than 6 months, but so you can see that this is pretty good. I mean, February, March 2025. So this means that the founders of these companies are literally on the move right now. and would be very interested, depending on the type of service you sell and how you sell it, to engage. So you get engagement. Here's another example. So give me a list of 10 Swedish companies recruiting in marketing or sales. And here again, if you're doing a SaaS platform for sales management, you know that these guys are recruiting people in these jobs. So there's a higher probability that they're changing processes, changing systems, and so on. Here's another example. Give me a list of 10 Swedish founders who've been featured in press articles this week. And here you can see you get a bunch of, you get the list, you get a list, you get the URL. And again, you can use this to nurture. You can say, hey, I read your article here, really exciting, insert a quote. All of a sudden, you're building relationships and you're not spamming. Because a lot of cold outbound email is just getting to the point, which is good. Yet you want to get to the point in your cold email copy, but you want it to also be human and genuine. And if you can figure a way to make things human and genuine, and you can rank things based on AI and make it clear, obviously you're going to win. The other thing I mentioned earlier, depending on where the prospect is, if it's problem aware, solution aware, or not aware, is how do you do soft sell versus hard sell. So hard sell for me is something like, do you want to get on a 30-minute, do you want to get on a call, or are you interested in this? That's a hard sell. A soft sell is more like, hey, I've made a guide on how to grow without burning capital. Are you interested in it? That's more of a soft sell. So there are obviously different ways of CTAs here. An assessment is a great CTA, saying, hey, there's a free audit I'm giving away. It's 500 euros, but you get it for free. And it takes 10 minutes, you want to do it, and then they can do it at their own time. So that's a great way to do a soft sell. But in general, the CTA should give you outsized value, and that outsized value is communicated either because of the message before or the CTA itself, right? So an outsized value would be giving away something for free that other people are charging. So there's a value or a price anchor, and you're giving it away for free. So an example would be, let's say, you're an SEO agency and you say, listen, I'm going to give away 3 articles and a complete audit for free. And people know that that's like, a few hundred euros worth. Then that's a good CTA. Even better CTA is the whole context around the CTA, which is what I've been touching upon. So if you can get the signal collection right, write the perfect contextual email, then the CTA becomes the obvious next step, right? So if somebody's just raised capital and you say and your CTA is that I help growth teams scale faster with less burn, the obvious CTA would be, show me how, and then you have to decide, are you going to show you how? Because you're going to send a video, you're going to get on a call, you have a YouTube channel, whatever that is, right? So the CTA becomes the obvious next step. But in general, the rule should be give outsized value and give away something for free as part of your CTA that other people charge for. And then finally, you have to understand, is this really for you? Is outbound for you? And for that, you need to know if you have some kind of proof that you can deliver value, you have clarity on who your niche is, and there's a sizable market, right? Because at the end of the day, outbound works with volume. So if your entire market, if you're targeting hedge fund managers in Sweden, and that's like 400 people, you should not be doing outbound at scale. You should be doing one-on-one outbound. You should be writing postcards, So be clear on whether outbound is for you, and be clear if you're just starting up, you're just getting, your own whole business started, you just registered your LLC. Don't start with outbound, pitch your friends, get some reps going on how you deliver value, and then get into outbound. So just to wrap things up here, before we go into the second part of the video, which I'm really excited to show you, is how I build step by step with NA10, where you can use the signal collection and put that in simple workflows and automate at scale. I'm going to show that to you in the next part. But I want to finish off with some very simple copy psychologies. Is clear is any day better than clever. So if you have emails that sound too clever, people are going to zone off. If it's much better to be clear, and the simplest test you can use is a third grader's English. Use third grader's English, you'll never go wrong. You don't have to appear fancy or cool. You just have to be clear, okay? Have lots of spacing, one sentence per spacing. Subject line needs to evoke curiosity. I love using competitor names as subject lines because it evokes curiosity. If you're a founder, for instance, you obsess a lot about your competition, and you see the competitor's name, you want to open that email, right? So that's an example. Have open loops like a question, and use loss aversion, especially in follow-ups, because they tend to get more replies, and then you have to build from there. Replies can take up to 10 follow-ups if you don't do the signal collection. If you do the signal collection, I experience that replies start coming around week email 3, email 4 already. So which is a much better, you compress time, and that's great. You also have to bear in mind circumstances change. So as I mentioned, cold outbound compounds over time. So if you start today and you have a list, 12 months from now, the same group of people are still relevant, but lots of things have happened for this group of people. So you want to find a way to keep getting relevant data, and then there's a pling that happens saying, hey, this person is ready for you again. And that circumstance change should lead to another sort of more harder sales sequence. And you want to have a really strong nurture sequence as part of this, because you just don't want to be sending emails that are unsolicited and don't ask, just ask things. So make sure there's a nurture sequence, and it's a compounding long game. And not following up and being very focused on me, you is not going to help out here at all. So these are some basic principles. My biggest takeaway is signal collection. If you can do signal collection, hyper personalization at scale, you've nailed it. And if you can keep working with the compound effect of cold outbound, where you know that the person's circumstances are going to change, and you can keep collecting signals and keep sending emails that are relevant, you will grow your business. It's simply a matter of time. So I'll see you in the second part of the video where I show you step by step how to set this up in an H10, and then I'll come back and I'll finalize what you saw. Take care. All right, guys. So what I wanted to do in this part of the video is to take you through the setup behind the scenes, so you can see how I've thought about getting three parts of our outbound engine to work. The first one being hyper personalization, the second one being right timing. So we are very confident that this person has, or this company has, the need for the product we're trying to sell, or the outcome that they're trying to achieve, and they're stuck today. So we want to have some kind of measure around timing, that we are on right timing, so to speak. And the third thing is adaptive CTA. So based on where the customer is, you want to give them different ways to engage with you. And for some, it could be hard aggressive CTAs, like let's get on a call because this is going to be helpful, and here is a time slot for tomorrow. And for some, it's going to just be, here is, I made a PDF for you, or I made a video for you, or and CTA is a little tricky. It's industry specific, it's timing specific. So we're going to try our best to do as good adaptive CTAs as possible, or at least give the AI different options. But let me just walk you through how the logic behind it is, because if you get this part of it right, building the actual workflow in N810 goes much faster. So we start by having a really strong database. The way I do it is I go into apollo.io and then I find a set of leads from there. And basically, it's simple filtering. So the filters I've used for this campaign are as follows. I have it all in my CRM, which is Airtable, for this campaign. So you can see here that my Apollo link is over here. Let's remove this grid view thing. Yeah. Okay, so here, the description here is what the filters are in Apollo. So I'm focused on Nordics and Netherlands. So companies that have a certain revenue threshold. So there's employee size of minimum 10. So either they are, self-funded companies that have some kind of profitability or good revenue generation. So to have 10 employees, you need at least €1 million in sales in the Scandinavia, with all the taxes and so on, with social taxes. So somewhere around 7 to 10 million SEK, or 700,000 to €1 million in sales, which is a pretty good threshold. And if you're a fast-growing startup, if you have employed 10 people, at least you've raised some kind of seed capital. We're going to focus only on recently funded or fast-growing companies. So in Apollo, you can look at you can filter companies based on growth, which is what I've done, and obviously funding. We're going to look at Nordics and Netherlands, and we're going to look at, focus on founder or salespeople. That's going to be the campaign, and you get an Apollo link, which is a pretty long link. And what you do after that is I run an API actor called Apollo Lead Scraper. It costs $45 a month. And it runs. So you can see that it ran for 51 minutes and gave me 1,500 leads. I take it out as a CSV, clean it up a little bit, and then I import it into my table. It's pretty simple to import. You just click on import data over here and click on CSV file. Okay, and then you want to make sure that you're mapping the right fields. So the fields that I have are first name, last name, phone number, start lead qualification and status. These are the automation fields that I'll be showing and setting up. So literally the whole automation of writing emails and sending emails even starts with just tick box and changing the status to yet to be enriched. I also have other things here in the status column. I have cold qualified, warm, meaning they've replied, meeting booked, proposal sent, client closed, lost, did not qualify, lost, not interested, right? So, and these two are pretty important, and the rest is also pretty important. So obviously you can keep having more status tags, like under warm, you can have like warm level 1, level 2, or hot, and so on. And you can decide if you want to nurture them or if you want to just, continue selling. Time at company is also interesting, especially if you're a founder, because it kind of tells you how long they've been doing it, and if you're a founder that's pretty new in your startup journey, on your business journey, you're typically gung-ho and you're typically on top of the hill. And then you wait for your first crash, which typically happens around 18 to 24 to 36 months, somewhere there, when you're not getting the data you want to, when you're not getting the numbers you hope you're going to get, or you felt you're going to get. And if somebody like Dennis, who I know, by the way, I worked with him in the past, from Denmark, he's been running this for 10 years, he's gone through a lot of cycles. He's pretty hardened by now, right? So he's also more skeptical in the sense that he's a better buyer. So he's going to recognize game pretty fast. And if you're not good at the game, he's going to find out. He's not going to reply, right? But if you compare that to a founder that just probably started over here, for instance, 4 years ago, probably slightly different depending on the stage. So generalization, obviously, but it's good to have this data, I feel. Industry is pretty good. Then location, obviously, the different LinkedIns, the person's LinkedIn and the company LinkedIn, their website. And then I have the lead enrichment, and this is where sort of the signal collection happens. So as I mentioned in the first part of the video, signal collection is very important because you want to know that this company is ready for your service. And if they are ready for your service, the timing makes sense. And if the timing makes sense, what are the best angles? So we're gonna build this up step by step. So we're gonna start by looking at the website signals, then we're gonna look at LinkedIn signals, and then I'm gonna feed this all into Perplexity to give me sort of a 360 signal view. I'm calling it Perplexity signals. And then I have the final email copy with the subject line and the follow-up emails. I'm gonna do 7 follow-up emails. I realized that I've not added a couple more fields here, but anyway, so I'm going to do 7 follow-up emails and 1 main email, so in total 8 emails in my first sequence. And then when I click on this tick box and add the instantly campaign ID, the email is sent. So this is my CRM. I really recommend you to spend time structuring the data that is important for you. The way I do it is to go through the flow of what I want to build using Miro. So, and then I know what fields make sense, and I know how to structure my N8N, because you want to keep having a trail of data, and more data obviously you have with AI progressing as fast as it is, more structured your data is, and more data that you have around your prospect, obviously with better computing, inference power and more memory, we can start really leveraging more tools as they come along. So I really recommend you to think through this before you just get started building. So the way I'm going to do this, as I showed you, is to scrape their website, find the most important URLs and analyze their focus and positioning, and especially look at case studies or like customer success stories. And these are important because a lot of companies have walls of customer success stories in their actual office. They're very proud of the case studies. If you're a founder in a small company, you typically know most of your customers, and quoting a case study is a pretty good ego boost. And who doesn't like that, right? So that's important, I think. Then we're going to analyze all this and store this in Airtable. And then I'm going to do the same with LinkedIn company scraping and profile scraping and analyze all this and put this in Airtable. And then I'm going to feed all this data that we've gotten so far into Perplexity and ask Perplexity to build a confidence score. And this confidence score basically tells us, is this right timing on a scale of 0 to 1? And higher, closer to 1 it is, the higher timing chance it is. And you have to really prompt this based on your signals. So this is where the intelligence around your business comes in, because all this till now is just sort of scraping, right? And then here is where we are going to start building the angles. And here we're going to find 5 relevant angles that are the most relevant and the most real time, most, sounds very personal, as if somebody's, followed you. And then we're going to store these angles, and then we're going to build one main email and 7 follow-up emails, not 8. And we're going to find a way to send it at the right time. This is a little tricky because if you want to scale, you want to have volume. But if you're doing a small campaign of, let's say, 1,000 leads, maybe you can look at how you're sending this in instantly. But I'll get back to that in a second. All right, so this is the flow. So let's get to it. Okay, I'm going to walk you through a build together. So I've been doing this on N8N. And as many of you know, probably that have seen my channel before, N8N is my favorite tool to build workflows like this because it's pretty robust. There is a little bit of a learning curve, but it's totally worth it. It took me about 2 to 3 weeks to get all the basics right. So if you're new to N8N, I'd really recommend you to search around on YouTube. The main things you want to learn about with N8N is using webhooks and using requests. If you get those 2 right, the rest you can work with ChatGPT to wipe code. So these code blocks over here, these are functional code blocks. You can work with GPT and say, give me, code that does this, and it does exactly that. So it's called vibe coding, which I really like. So you can vibe code with GPT and build your workflow if you get the basics right? All right. So let me just walk you through. I see there's some error in my execution here. I was just testing it, but I wanted to show this live to you and also show you how I debug errors, because obviously that's an important skill. Your automations are not going to be perfect, and you need to know how to debug them. And debugging takes a lot of time, especially if you're using GPT, because it can throw things, it can throw you off course basically. All right, so just to recap, what I have is a leads list from Apollo where I've filtered 1,500 Scandinavian companies and Dutch companies that have recently raised capital or have been growing fast. So I measure that based on their employee size. So if they've been growing fast in terms of number of employees that the team has had over the last, let's say, 12 months, that means they are, either they've raised capital or they're making revenues, which are really good signs. And if they're recently funded, it means that, they have capital to deploy. For me, recent is 6 months. For some, it's 3, depending on the type of service you provide. 6 months, pretty good. 3 months is probably even better, but it depends on which stage. If you're very early stage, you might not have figured out all your strategy. If you're slightly later towards Series B, it's probably better because you know how you want to use the capital most likely. So yeah, so it depends on case by case. There's no sort of hard fast rule here. Okay, so what happens here is everything comes into my CRM, and in my CRM I have LinkedIn of the person, LinkedIn of the company, the website, and then these are the signals that I want to collect, because as I mentioned in the first part of the video, the whole holy grail in my opinion when it comes to cold outbound is timing. So if you can engineer serendipity, and you know that the person is looking for a category of your service, or looking for something around the outcome that you provide, and you land in that inbox with a human sounding email that is very personalized, there's a very high chance that that person is going to at least pay attention, and over time with enough follow-ups, reply, right? So the way I try to do this for my own case over here is figure out, look at their website, and look at signals. I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Look at the LinkedIn, look at the signals, and then feed this all into Perplexity, and I get a timing score. And if the timing score is closer to 1, it means that they are definitely ready to be. They're very close to either publicly admitting that they want a category of service that I provide, or they are a great fit hand in glove, right? And closer to 0 it means that you probably should not reach out. My cutoff is at 0.7, meaning if somebody's timing score is below 0.7, I don't reach out. So you will see that on the left hand side over here it says lost, do not qualify. And these D and Q people for me go into another email list where I just nurture them and send them my YouTube videos or tutorials, and add them on LinkedIn and just build relationships, right? So this is literally my nurture sequence, and the cold qualified are people that are above a certain timing signal. And for me, timing is a very important part of cold outbound. If you can get timing right along with volume and personalization, you literally have nailed it. And if you get 2 out of these 3 right, you're going to see much better results. If you get all 3 out of the 3 right, you're crushing it. So here I have, from Perplexity, I have the top 3 competitors. As you know, we as humans obsess about competition, and speaking and name dropping competition, either you're one of your follow-up emails or in your main email, is really good in terms of open rates. So you have competition, you have ranked angles on what type of angles to focus on, event-based, cross-market expansion. So this is based on their data, right? So this is literally taking all their LinkedIn and website data and putting this into angles for me. And this is fantastic because this is literally what I would pay a researcher to do. And that would take the person maybe half an hour, and that's going to be filled with human errors. Obviously, AI is not perfect, but it does a very good job based on the prompt. And then over here, I have my main email and 7 emails. And what I've also done here is fed AI something called adaptive CTA. So depending on the timing score and depending on the angles, I have different CTAs. So here I have a free sales audit as a CTA. In another email, maybe I have invite them to an event instead. So adaptive CTAs are an important concept because based on how close they are in terms of looking for a service like yours, or in terms of timing, you're taking your best guess at saying what is the natural next step that doesn't feel pushy, because you want to build relationships, as I mentioned in the first part of the video, and you don't want to be too transactional. Okay, so good. So let me just dive into the N8N workflow over here. And as you can see, it's a pretty long workflow, but it's pretty straightforward. So let me just walk you through it. So it all starts with a webhook. A webhook is, for those that are not familiar, it's simply a piece of code or a URL that connects the 2 different softwares. I connect the webhook using Airtable, and you can simply add the webhook over here in this webhook URL piece. This code, you can get it from ChatGPT. If you ask it, I want to connect N8N with Airtable, how do I do that? And you literally get this code and you just put in the webhook URL over here. Okay, so it's not complicated. Then I connect my Airtable. Airtable is my CRM, as I showed you, and here I can get all the data in terms of who the lead is. Then this is where the first part of the signal scraping starts. As I mentioned, we look at the website. Here I'm using an Apify website crawler. So what I realized is just a GET request. Sometimes companies have JavaScript, front-end loaded JavaScripts, which means that the crawler doesn't crawl enough from their website, and that makes the website scraping really bad or the output really poor. So when I use a scraper like this, it goes multiple deep levels. Bear in mind that you don't want the crawl depth and crawl pages to be too much, because this takes a lot of resources. I've made my crawl depth to be 1. What that means is that it goes under one domain. Like if there is www.google.com, it goes google.com and one more depth from there. So google.com / let's say resources, and it stops there. It doesn't go /resources / another page, a sub page from there, right? So the crawl depth is literally telling you in the tree how deep should I go, and crawl pages is the total number of pages it should get. And in my opinion, most website designers or companies have their most important websites on the menu, and the crawler starts there. And if you can get the first 6 most important pages, you get a pretty good idea. Obviously, if you have more resources to throw at your and your scraper, you can make this 20 or 10 or whatever. But I'm pretty happy with the output. With 6, I tried 7, I tried 8, and 6 seems to be a number that still gives us good results. So you get 6 items over here, and then this code block, what it does is it cleans it up. So when you input things into your LLM model, you want to clean up as much as possible, because every extra takes cost tokens in your AI call. So you want to keep it as clean as possible. Okay, now I'm merging all of these 6 into one. So again, so to make it easier for the LLM, so you're not feeding it 6 items. So the 6 items become 1 item. So 6 items are the 6 website pages it's crawled, and all that data, right? And I've cleaned it up. Now I put this in my GPT. I'm using GPT-4. I've tried GPT-4o, but GPT-4 does a pretty good job, so I'm keeping it there. It's a little slightly more expensive, I believe. I could be wrong, but it does a pretty good job. So here you can see that the output is from their website. I've asked GPT to tell me, you're working on behalf of a specialist agency that offers AI-powered outbound. This is the summary. Please extract a list of 3 to 5 of the top most relevant actionable insights based solely on the content provided below. Focus your analysis on opportunities, customer acquisition or GTM readiness, and basically anything around sales and marketing. So if it finds things that are gaps or that are words that they've used that I can reuse back, then that's great. And also what I've asked it to do is to include 1 or 2 named clients or case studies. So this is important, especially if you're targeting small businesses. The founders or the head of sales are very proud of the customer work that they do, and they know their clients by hand or by heart. So when you name a client, or even name drop their client or testimonial or the results they've driven as part of the subject line, it leads to a lot more open rates, because people are focused on themselves, and clients are an epitome of what you can focus on, in terms of what you've delivered value. So, and it's great to be proud and use that to your advantage. All right, so I get that from the LLM model. Then I update this into my Airtable in the column called Website Insights. I do an Airtable call frequently, because sometimes the record ID gets lost downstream. So since I'm using the record ID to match different fields, I basically make sure that the website signals and the record ID continues being passed. Then I use a simple get call to get their company LinkedIn. And this company LinkedIn again has a lot of you can see there's a lot of other variables beyond just plain text. So we're going to clean that. Company LinkedIn is a hit or a miss. Some companies have really active LinkedIns, and some companies don't at all. If they have an active LinkedIn, it's the mine of gold, because literally they're posting once a week or more than once a week, and you have a clear insight on what's happening in their world that is real time or as close to real time, and that is in their language. Okay, and you can see a clear theme here. I'm trying to use their language as much as possible and not your language, because they would recognize it, and cold email has the least amount of trust. And more you mirror what they say and what they have said and what they have done, faster you build trust. Okay, now we remove this HTML from the LinkedIn and again clean it up. So you don't want to have lots of scrap. You just want to have clear text like you have it here. And then you're going to put this in an LLM, and it's going to analyze. And again, the prompt is very simple. Extract signals related to growth and identify any recent announcements that could be relevant, because then you can reuse that, right? And this is fantastic. Okay. Now we're going to do the next level of triangulation, which is the person's LinkedIn, the person you're trying to reach. And here you can, you need to use a AP5 scraper. And AP5 scrapers with this it costs $25 a month, but it's totally worth it. I've again tried outreach without personal LinkedIn, and I can tell you it's a completely different level of quality of personalization when you use their personal LinkedIn. So I'd really recommend you to invest in this, because you get much better data. And $25 for thousands of leads is no money, if you ask me. Then you turn the scraped data into text, which again is a fancy word of saying you're basically making it cleaner. And then you put this into LinkedIn. I guess you know the model by now. Again, it's the same kind of prompt. And now you have LinkedIn signals triangulated, which is really what we're doing here. So what we're going to do is to take all the inputs we've gotten, the website signals, the LinkedIn company signal, LinkedIn personal signal, and this is where we're putting things on steroids. Because when you put all this data, clean it up, take the insights that the AI has given you and feed that into Perplexity, which is my absolute favorite tool when it comes to getting a holistic view on the person and on the opportunity at hand. And that's why I'm calling it Perplexity Magic. You get really cool output. Let me show you. And this is where the timing becomes really interesting. So what I'm doing is to take all this data from basically the founder LinkedIn insights, company LinkedIn insights, and putting it into Perplexity. I realized I should put the website insights as well. Yeah, there you go. Okay, and I think I need to add the website insights here. I'll do that. Just give me a second. So all right, so I've added the website insights here, and I'm rerunning the workflow. So I'll keep walking you through it in the meantime. So
So basically, this code block merges all the data from the AI so far, all the outputs, the LinkedIn company outputs, the LinkedIn personal LinkedIn outputs, and the company website outputs, and puts that all into Perplexity. Perplexity, as you've heard many times from me by now, is my favorite tool. And then you parse this output. I realize it's better if I show you an execution. Hold on, it's been some errors. Okay, hold on. Better it runs. Ooh, there's an error. It's 9:31. Yeah, this is probably an error. Oh, it's running. All right, let it keep running. Okay, so while it's running, let me just walk you through the other steps. Once you do that, you're going to parse the output from Perplexity because you're going to get large output. And then you're updating their LinkedIn and clean company name. I mean, technically you can put that in here already, but I'm just doing it here because I'm also updating the Perplexity magic input here. So what I mean by that is that I have columns that make sure that I have a trail of LinkedIn signals, website signals, and Perplexity signals, and all this is updated over here in this node when I call this Airtable node. Okay, and then once I do that, I put all this back into another code block and say, okay, now based on all this, give me a confidence score. Tell me how likely is this person going to reply or is in need of my service, right? And this is the timing and confidence score, and this is what you see over here. So you get a timing score and a timing score text on why the AI thinks this timing is going to work for this person. And then it also gives me top 3 competitors and ranked angles. So these are things that have come from the previous Perplexity step that I'm getting as output, and I'm collecting all of them in one go. And these code blocks are useful because what it does is it makes sure that the output is clean and streamlined. Yeah, so I really recommend you using code blocks after Perplexity. The only downside with code blocks is that if the AI gives you outputs in different types of formats, not just like JSON, but sometimes markdown text or sometimes markdown text plus JSON, then you need to have a defensible code block that can handle these different types of outputs. And again, ChatGPT can help you. Let me just show you my trail over here. You can see that I'm debugging a lot with ChatGPT over here, or vibe coding. So here you can see that it gives me the new code based on JSON, that it handles markdown JSON blocks from Perplexity. So this is something you need to figure out with your own with the code block. If somebody has a better way to do this instead, please let me know in the comments, because the code block's a little bit of a bummer, because sometimes you don't know where it breaks and it takes a lot of debugging time. So if you have a better idea of how to do this, please let me know. Okay, it's going to stop this workflow. Something's not right with the HTTP request. I'm going to come back and look at it. Anyway, so let's add this execution back to the editor. Cool. So now we see the Perplexity timing and confidence signal. It kind of looks like this. So score is 0.9. There's a reason, and this is a great output if you ask me, because it's very clear how you can use the data. And this is an example of a code block error. You can see that although there's 0.9, the timing, it says there's no explanation found, right? So what I do over here is to make sure that I copy this code block again and I put that back in again. So let's see here. And then now if you test step. So again, this is perfect example of vibe coding, where you can see that the output is going to be as you want it. I didn't pin the request. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, cool. So now once we have that, we have an if block, and this if block is important because this is where I give it the command that if the timing score is below 70 or 0.7, it should not continue, and if it is, it should continue. And let's assume it does. Here is where I prompted to give me the first email, and this prompt is pretty straightforward. It basically takes all the data from Perplexity and all the signals based on the confidence score, the angles that it's found, and writes your first email. And then the same, you get a clean email body and subject. Then you update your email body in Airtable, and you then write 7 follow-up emails. These 7 follow-up emails are based on the 5 angles and the website signals and the LinkedIn signals. So it's very personal. I'm also experimenting with different subject lines for these emails. So for some of you, you might want to keep the same subject line, keep writing follow-ups. I'm going to try a test with different subject lines and see how that works compared to just the same subject line. So let's see how that works out. I'll get back to you once I get the results. And then at the end, I have all this in my table. So this is literally it, guys. So where it all starts is, it starts with me changing the status to yet to be enriched and starting this little tick box. And what happens on the right hand side is you get a clean company name. And clean company name is again an important part of personalization. If a company is called, let's say, Tufteware AS. AS is like a Danish ink. You don't want to, no human's going to, that writes to Danish company is going to write Tufteware AS. They're probably going to write just Tufteware. So you want to clean things like that out, right? So that's why I have the clean company name, and that's used in my emails. And then I have the lead enrichment, the date it's enriched, the signals, the email copies, the 7 follow-ups. And finally, when I click this tick box, it's sent from instantly with a campaign ID. I've not set this up yet, but it's pretty straightforward. Let me quickly show that to you. So the way I set the instantly up is that I have different campaigns, and I have a clear campaign trail under campaign data tab over here. So you can see, all my data in terms of lead size, contacted, open count, and so on. And this is important when you're doing A/B testing, so you have clear data and traceability. Now, the way I send instantly campaigns and update the campaign data is pretty straightforward. So it starts with a webhook again, and that webhook is triggered just the same way as we trigger the entire automation. It's triggered over here, and it's triggered when the final send tick box is clicked. Okay. And then it gets the data from Airtable. It structures the instantly campaign. So over here, I'm just structuring all of it up so it's clear what the follow-up emails are and the main body emails are. And then it connects to instantly with a post request, and you're just taking the JSON from the data from the previous step. And when you log into instantly, you will see that all your data is neatly stored as variables, and you just call those variables in instantly. I'll probably do a separate video on how I use instantly. I'm still getting the hangs of it, so I'll probably do it in the next few weeks. But it's a very simple tool, and it's very robust to send emails. And finally, I have a HTTP request to get all the analytics. So here is a different call, and here you can see there's an analytics and your ID of the campaign, and then it updates all of this in Airtable. So it's pretty straightforward. All right, guys, so there you have it. This is my N8N workflow to really make sure that I get the timing right. I'm personalizing on scale, and it feels human in its approach.
All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed the walkthrough of how I'm building N8N. I'm doing it step by step so you can really follow along. If you want the JSON files, you can click the description below and you'll see how to get it. But really, I want to summarize what you've learned in this video. The purpose here is to make outbound really relevant, and the best way to make things relevant is to make it focus on the person you're reaching out to. And signal collection is the absolute holy grail. If you know how to collect signals, and if you know how to triangulate that, if you know how to do weighted scores around that, and if you know how to keep nurturing based on that, you will win. It's just a matter of time. And the second thing is simple is greater than complex. So if you start building N8N workflows that become really complex, you have thousands of leads coming in and going, it becomes a mess. So start simple, keep adding more nodes as you go along. Don't try to get to, Rome was not built in a day. Don't try to get to perfection day one. Just get the process going, see how the results are, start with 500,000 leads, start scaling slowly from there, and then start building the nurturing sequence from there. You have to bear in mind that a lot of people would unsubscribe, so you want to make sure that there's some kind of opt-in mechanism if you're just basic nurturing and no sales anymore. So have that in mind and give value. Like, if you keep giving value, you will win. So just like if you keep collecting signals, you will win. If you keep giving value, you will win. And the last thing is a clean database. I love Airtable for this because it's simple enough, it's easy enough. I'm not using any crazy CRM that has their own inbuilt things going on. Airtable is sort of modular enough, and Airtable, N8N, and just simple data collection will go a long way. And if you can just I use instantly for my emails, as you saw. Some people prefer Gmail. You can connect Gmail to N8N or your Zapier or Make, doesn't matter. I use instantly because it sort of keeps things clean for me with my domain reputation and warm-ups and so on. So I use instantly to send the emails, and it works really well in terms of deliverability. So keep a clean database, keep a clean set of tools because it really simplifies life at the end of the day. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe and share this with a friend. You will find all the links on how to get started in the description below. And until I see you in the next video, take care.